Speaking of games, we should talk about Linus's fun Linux challenge.
This is why I was almost late for the podcast. I was just planning out my reply.
Oh yeah.
I'm like 5 minutes into it, into like the second part. Okay, first part, I think first part, Linus justifiably made a lot of errors.
Yep.
I think I think the problem with Pop! OS, I think Linus is responsible for he's responsible for his actions. Like anyone who says he's not responsible for, saying yes to the prompt is just
Right, yeah.
denying what the denying his free agency as a person. Like he could
Yeah.
have chosen to read the entire prompt, he didn't. Pop! OS has the responsibility to make sure the prompt actually is something the user is encouraged to read. If it's just this giant wall of white text, like why would I read that? And then it
Yeah,
says
your brain
yes,
shuts
do as
off.
I say. Like that doesn't sound like anything bad. That just sounds like an annoying admin prompt.
It does, yeah.
I know it's crazy. This isn't a black and white situation. Pop! OS and Linus are both at fault. Linus discovered in the second part that it's not just the reason why people don't like NVIDIA on Linux isn't just because the drivers aren't open source. It's because they're actually bad. He was going through like the NVIDIA control panel. Was like, why does the control panel look like it's from 10 years ago? Why is it laid out like this? Why are there basic features missing? I don't use NVIDIA specifically for that reason. I'm always going to use AMD on Linux, just at least until NVIDIA, cares at all. Just support, like, don't donate like $20,000 or $30,000 to the Novo project if you're not going to support it with developers. Do something to make the open source drivers better. Better yet, actually just send developers to it. But yeah.
I think if next time I make a Linux system, it's gonna be all AMD based because this is like an old one I had before I was like super using Linux, so it still has an NVIDIA GPU in it.
Like you can use NVIDIA GPUs, but you sort of just have to be aware that there's going to be problems.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see what else. What else was in the first part? I'm trying to remember. It was a while ago now. I know Luke had basically no problems.
Yeah, I did find it funny. I think you had this like funny reaction too whenever Linus first put Pop! OS on there. He was like, "Oh, I was wondering if my like monitor in the other room that's hooked up through Thunderbolt would work." And he was like, "Oh, actually it worked." And you were like, "Hey, isn't that amazing? It's like there's drivers in the current."
Yeah. No, I get it because the Windows installer isn't like that. The Windows installer is like a separate thing from Windows, but I guess it's not really made clear from like downloading the ISO that it actually is just a full installation of Pop! OS.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's not really the misunderstanding, because the misunderstanding there is that in Windows, like the drivers are all separate, because you have to like constantly download drivers to use shit. But in Linux, all the stuff more or less is baked into the kernel.
Well,
that's why you almost never have to get drivers.
The difference with Linus's setup is because he has an NVIDIA card. And if the driver, like the NVIDIA drivers aren't part of the kernel, they have to be added through dynamic kernel something or other system. Module system? I don't know. It's a thing where you can like you can make modules interact with the kernel, so things that are out of tree can be added, like NVIDIA drivers, like the VirtualBox guest utility things, so you can like change resolution in a VM, things like that. I can get why Linus would think that wouldn't work, because I think he knew that the NVIDIA drivers weren't like supposed to be there, like at least some level of knowledge about NVIDIA drivers being weird on Linux. So I can get that being the problem. The Thunderbolt thing though is different, because Thunderbolt is just in the kernel. Thunderbolt's worked for like, I don't know, 7 years now. Whenever like it's worked since like pretty much just after Thunderbolt came out. So even though like Linus like his computer setup is really weird. Like he has computers in a separate room in a server rack. That seems like a really annoying thing. Like if you need to troubleshoot stuff.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, because even when I get like a a home lab stuff. So like, I'm not gonna like run my machine off the fucking shit on the server rack with a.
I get it for like not wanting the noise. You can just put it somewhere else. But like,
Hmm.
I wear headphones 99% of the time. I can't hear my
Right.
computer.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got my notes for the second part. I'll see what I've only about like 5 minutes into the video. Well, I watched all of it before, but I'm like 5 minutes in my notes.
Right. Yeah.
Because the way I usually do notes for like a video like this is I'll watch it first and then, rewatch it afterwards. Oh, you get this weird problem with Manjaro, or I think it's a weird problem. Right? It's either it's a weird problem or Linus is still unable to read. So he tried to use sudo apt-get on Manjaro because it came from Pop OS thinking that was package manager. Didn't work. Fair enough. Anyone could make that issue. Even if you're super experienced with Linux, if you just forget what the distro you're using is based on, anyone can make that. But he said that when he ran it, it tried to install a dependency for apt. No. I just had to confirm this with one of my viewers. Be like, can someone here who actually uses Manjaro tell me what happens if you run a command that isn't installed? It says command not found. I don't know what he did to get it to try to install a dependency. But maybe I'm convinced he just didn't read what it said at all.
That doesn't sound like it.
What else? He did get into the problem of, device control panels, things for your mouse, keyboard, things like that, just not being available on Linux.
Yeah.
So his solution for that was going through a Windows VM.
And I was like, what?
I understand that. If the device has onboard memory, that's a legitimate way to do it. But a lot of these devices, especially because he has Logitech mice like I do, have really good community software on Linux. For the Logitech stuff, you would use Piper. This is my G600 here. I configure it through Piper. It works perfectly fine. I think the main NAS he's using is the same one that I have, the 305. Might be a newer version of the 305. But stuff like that it works great through Piper. You don't need to use Windows for it. Some mice are like that. Corsair and Razer both have tools that are pretty good. Anything else, you're very hit and miss. I can't speak for Mad Cats, for example. I don't think there's any Mad Cat software on Linux.
When he did explain the whole thing about the whole Windows VM thing, I was both like, wow, that seems like a lot of effort to get that to work, but at the same time I was like, that's also kind of an interesting idea.
What if I told you that's how I do printing?
Do you?
Yes. I don't print on Linux. I don't want to deal with I don't think I have there's drivers available that work on Linux for my printer. So I just do it through Windows. People can bully me about it all they want, but it's just I don't want to spend 3 hours trying to print a document.
Actually, I have this kind of slightly nightmare printer related story that's Linux related. So
that's a good start.
For work, when I had my old position, I had to sometimes do test and reproduction with the actual printers they use at the stores, and they're Epson printers. Those printers don't work out of the box on Linux, from what I understood. You had to go get their not just a driver. There was something else you had to get, because when I tried to install it through the Pop OS normal way of installing a printer, just didn't work. I had to literally Google around for 2 hours to figure out how you set up a printer manually in a terminal with cups. I got it to work, damn it.
My favorite description of cups is cups was created to save the rainforest because it doesn't work.